Myeloproliferative definition and overview. So, according to Merriam-Webster, definition of myeloproliferative is of relating to or being a disorder, such as leukemia, marked by excessive proliferation of bone marrow elements and especially blood cell precursors. Which makes sense. And then neoplasm, according to Merriam-Webster, again, is tumor, an abnormal, benign, or malignant new growth of tissue that possesses no physical function and arises from uncontrolled, usually rapid, cellular proliferation. So, that makes sense. Types of MPNs. Essential thrombocythemia, which affects the platelets. Polycythemia vera, which affects the red blood cells. Chronic myelofibrosis, which is scar tissue formed in the bone marrow. And abnormal blood cells and fibers that build up in the bone marrow. Sounds really painful. I'm not sure. I know my doctor's testing me for that later this year. So, okay, there's some other types that are sometimes included with the MPN types. There's chronic myelogenous leukemia, systemic mastocytosis, and chronic eosinophilic leukemia, hypereosinophilic syndrome. So I'll have to look into those more, because most of the information I saw was only about ET, PV, and CMF. So these other ones, I'm not sure why they're included with MPN types. Unless it's because they just happen to be forms of leukemia or have to do with blood. So they'll have their own episode. And then, how are you diagnosed? So, most cases are found after a complete blood count test, or a CBC, in which the increased blood cells will be noticed first, and the patient will be repeat tested or be sent to a hematologist if the numbers are elevated. For example, I was repeat tested. I think it was 4 CBC tests and it was one every 2 weeks. And then I was referred to a hematologist because my numbers were 447. That's 447,000. At the time that they noticed and thought it was weird. I don't know what what my numbers are supposed to be for my platelets. And then there's a bone marrow biopsy that's done, and I think I said in the last episode, the one that I had, the first one, so I'll have my second in August this year. It was not fun. They gave me Demerol, which was awesome. And then, he gave me a local anesthetic on my hip. And everything was cool. And then they got to the bone part, and it still hurt because you can't really escape bone pain. And yeah, I had a nurse holding my hand, and I think I almost broke her hand because I was squeezing so hard because it hurt so much. And my mom was in the room. She was sitting at my shoulder, so she couldn't see what they were doing. But she saw the needle, and she said it was huge. And so, yeah. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone, but, it's the truth. It hurts. And I'm hoping this time around will be different. And Dawn does the scheduling for my hematologist. She assured me that a lot has changed in the last 7 years. So I'm hoping that means it's not going to suck as much. Because it sucked. Although I was able to go to a memorial for a family member that had passed away. And that was on the day after, which was a Saturday. And then Monday after that, I went to work. My supervisor at the time was extremely surprised that I did that. And I was just like, yeah, but I need the money. Because, possible cancer, So, but they do, most times they prefer to use the bone marrow biopsy as a confirmation, just so that they can get a better view of what's actually going on in the bone marrow and how everything looks and all of that. So they're digging around in your bone, and so that they can take a sample from within the marrow. So it's kind of like if you take a straw and you put it in sugar or water, and then you put your finger over the top and lift the straw, and there's that little bit of water that you saved. That's my very simplified version of what a bone marrow biopsy is. Oh, so much laughing in this episode. I'm sorry. Genetic testing. There are genetic mutations that have been connected to the different types of MPNs. The findings of one of the mutations can more easily confirm the diagnosis and help to better guide the treatment. I know, within the last few years, they've been coming out with treatments that can directly either affect the DNA or better work with your DNA. Imaging tests, X-rays, CT scans, and ECG. X-rays, they're looking for any kind of weird abnormalities or tumors and stuff. CT scans, it's more of the same, but it's a better X-ray. ECG, they're looking at the heart. I had one done recently, and it was kind of cool because you can hear your heart, the blood pumping through it, and you get to see the valves and stuff. And it kind of reminded me of the inflatable men that car dealerships have with the wacky waving arms. It looked like that kind of. It was cool. I like things like that. It's weird, but yeah, it was cool. They didn't see anything funky with my test, so good, I guess. And yeah, it's basically just checking to see how the vital organs are working, making sure that they're not or possibly causing your issues. And then there's immunophenotyping, which I did not write down a description of, so flag added for that. Okay. Let me see. So that'll be all for this section. My other notes and stuff are on Google Drive. I can't get to that because I'm on my phone in a parking lot. I'm not sure if Anchor will record if I'm out of it. So I think that'll be all for most of this episode. The rest of the episode will be medical update and life update because, you know, MP in life. So stick around, please.